Hi, this is Jill Marshall, author, writing coach and publisher, and I'm here with the 5th module on character building of the How to Write Children's Books online program. So in the PDF we've talked quite a lot about how to grow and develop your characters, and this is particularly to elucidate a little on that character grid, which is what you might use if you want to create your character from scratch. If you don't already have a clear idea of their name and where they sit in their family and all those issues that are noted down there on the character grid. So what I'm going to do is take each one in turn and just give you a few more ideas of the kind of things you might think about for those particular factors. The first one that we come across there is name. Now, I've already given you some examples of how to establish somebody's name, how to maybe create it, or sometimes it will just occur to you, or it will be given to you in some way, as it was with me with Matilda Peppercorn. But don't forget as well that someone's name can change throughout their lives. So it may not be the same at the end of the story as it is at the beginning of the story. And what might that mean for your individual character? For instance, a common way for people to change their names is to get married. And these days it's, I think, probably as common for people to hyphenate their names, to put their names together and become a double-barreled surname. Rather than the woman traditionally taking the husband's surname. It can happen in either way, but in that case, at least one person's name has changed, and in some cases, 2 people's names have changed. And for a child, it could be that perhaps they've been adopted. So, for instance, they could have been fostered by a number of families, find one to settle with, and that fostering family then takes them on permanently and adopts them and officially gives them a surname. Now, what if they felt nameless and invisible all their lives? What exactly would that mean to them? That could be colossal in terms of the impact it has on their growth and their development. Or perhaps they've done the opposite and decided to divorce themselves from their parents. And you do hear that happening from time to time, and I think there's probably a couple of films about that kind of issue. In which case, what name would the child choose for themselves? They could pick something that's completely opposite to the name that their parents have, so that they conjure up a completely different image to their friends, to the people they want to impress, specifically through their name. And names change for other reasons. For instance, in my own family, our original family surname was not Marshall. It was something else. And up until my mother and father getting married, and even to my sister being born, then our family surname was other than what we have now. My dad never liked it, so at that point he decided to change his name by deed poll, and I have become one of the first generation of Marshalls in our dynasty, if you like. So do not assume that someone's name has to stay the same, and also don't assume that their name is the one that they'll stick with forever. It could change, and there could be a number of reasons why. So that might be quite fun to investigate with your character. And then we have the factor of age and birthday. Now, I've talked a little bit about age, and we already know that in order to keep your reader happy, because children like to read upwards, you're going to probably put your child at a couple of years older than the reader, so the top end of that age bracket, or maybe even slightly above. But also have a think about when their birthday might be, and what impact that could have on the character, on the child themselves. So, for instance, if their birthday's on Christmas Day, do they hate the fact that they only ever get given one set of presents because people can't be bothered to buy twice for Christmas Day? Or what if their birthday's on New Year's Day, just a week later, but everybody's celebrating the start of the new year, and somehow your character's birthday gets forgotten? How is that going to affect them, considering how special birthdays are to younger people? And what if their birthday is on February the 29th in a leap year? They might be 12 years old, but actually, officially, they're only 3. So how do they react to other 12-year-olds? How do they react to other 3-year-olds? Again, that might be enormously fun to investigate. And you're going to then be able to play around with that information. And if you're writing a longer book, it's likely they will have a birthday at some stage in that book or in the series. So what is that going to mean to them? The significance of Harry Potter's birthday is twofold. It's 31st of July, which I believe is also J.K. Rowling's birthday, although I may have got that wrong. But the significance in the UK of a July 31st birthday is it's slap in the middle of the summer. And there's about a month to go before the new school year begins. So the significance for Harry is that Hogwarts is on the horizon whenever his birthday is coming around. And, of course, it means for him that he's had to go home. He's had to go back to the Dursleys because it's the school holidays, the summer holidays. So that really is the significance of Harry's birthday being on the 31st of July. And lots of Harry Potter-related events take place on the 31st of July as well. So there is something to think about their birthdays. You may want to avoid having too many birthdays so that your child character doesn't age too much throughout your story. We don't all want to be like Harry Potter, where he goes from 11 to 17 throughout the course of the books. For myself, with Jane Blonde, really all her activities take place within 1 year so that she doesn't get too much older. And that was my specific choice. And I thought about her birthday and when that would be, and I really don't mention it terribly much. Until the very, very end of the series, because that birthday is significant. So have a think about the birthday issue, jot down some ideas about what it might mean to you. And then we have the factor of appearance. Now, we've talked somewhat about how somebody might look. Do they have freckles? Do they have hunched shoulders? Are they tall? Are they small? Are they fat? Are they thin? All those kind of things that fairly typically appear in somebody's description. But also have a think about if they have a mannerism, something that they do consistently that says something about their character. So it could, for instance, be that they scratch their nose while they're talking or cover their mouth somehow while they're talking, which is typically a sign that somebody's lying. So that could be just a little something you throw in as a mannerism for your character that could indicate something about their personality. And you're doing it in a subtle way without actually spelling out for the reader that at this point they are lying. It could just be something that the person who's with them starts to recognise as a sign of something not being quite truthful. Or it could be that they have a scar, like Harry, which is an indication of something that's happened in the past. It could be they have a particular need to point at people, which could be to lead people away from what's happening with them themselves. So they're taking the focus off themselves and pointing at somebody else. So think about a mannerism that your character might have, as well as their typical appearance. What you don't want to do is then mention it in every other sentence, because you're then going to irritate the reader and it will become distracting rather than something that gives a little indication of what that person is like, that character is like. But do shed it in from time to time, just layer it in there, and it will be a little version of how you show rather than tell what your character is like. And then this part about family arrangement. Now, they may not have a family. Quite commonly in children's books and in many books, the main character is isolated in some way. They are on their own. They'll often start in a situation of ignorance where they don't realise that life could be any different, but they're not happy in that situation because they're alone. For children particularly, often they are parentless in some way, with few adults around, and that's particularly so that they can go off and have their adventures without too much interruption and intervention from those nosy adults. So it may be that your character doesn't have a family, or it may be that they have an enormous family. And in that case, what does it mean to them about where they sit within the family? It's fairly commonly described that older children are either very put upon because the parents leave everything to them, or they become quite bossy because they're in charge and they might have natural leadership qualities, which you might want to bring out in your character. There were studies done in New Zealand a couple of years ago that showed that firstborn children, i.e. the oldest in the family, were most likely to go off and have professional careers, like become a doctor or become a lawyer. Middle children, meanwhile, would often become caregivers. They're the born mediators. They're the people who like to look at either side of the family and make sure that everybody's getting along. So they can be gentler or softer in their demeanour, and can also go into the kind of jobs that require that sort of softness, like nursing perhaps, or counselling of some kind. And the youngest children in this particular study very often went on to be the most likely to have a creative career. So they might be the writer, or they may well have become an artist. And there is something about where they sat in the family that enabled them to do that. So these are adults, obviously, who are going on into different careers. But think about where the family arrangement impacts on your child character as well. Are they the oldest? Are they put upon? Are they expected to do great things for their family? To carry on the legacy, to pick up the family name and so on. Are they the youngest? Do they get babied? Are they sick of being babied? Do they really hate the fact that everybody thinks they're useless because they're the littlest? It can really have quite an interesting turn for your character, where they sit in the family. And think about it for yourself, where your own situation in the family is and how that's affected you throughout your life. For me, for instance, I'm the third out of 4 children, so I do have that mediator tendency. I do like to make sure that everybody's being looked after and is happy and is getting along. But also, my siblings appeared in 2 pairs. So there's an older pair of my older brother and sister, and then there's quite a gap, and then my younger brother and I turn up. So I'm actually the oldest of the youngest pair. So while I have that middle family tendency, I also have a slight older sister tendency to perhaps be a little bit bossy. And I'm sure my younger brother would concur with that view. So the family arrangement all has significance. Think about what it means to you and what it especially will mean to your character.
Or cry.
And then we
don't
have
have to go into this in
the
too much
issue
detail.
of, again, it's just a little something for you to think about, which might give a suggestion of what their personality is like. It might also be something that can show how they change and develop throughout the story. So perhaps they don't laugh at all in the beginning of the story because they're miserable and don't like the situation they've found themselves in. And by the end they can laugh freely, and therefore what does that mean to them, that ability to laugh? Maybe they don't cry at the beginning of the book and can cry by the end. So that's something, again, that might give a little idiosyncrasy of your character. And how do they cry? Do they cry secretively? Do they go off into a little room on their own and make sure that nobody ever knows that they're upset? Or are they the complete opposite? Do they throw themselves on the floor, have a wailing tantrum, and thoroughly enjoy the drama and the attention? So these are little pictures of a character that can be brought out just by what they laugh at, what they cry at, and how they laugh and cry. And similarly, the last little indicator there of what kind of underwear they're wearing is just something for you to look at that might give you a little suggestion of what the character's like. But as well as that, apart from being jokey and fun for you to explore, because what somebody's underwear is like is possibly an indication of what their character's like. But it can also be about what they hide. What is their secret? So if beneath their school uniform they're wearing outrageous underwear, what does that say about their personality? And what are they hiding? What is it they're not revealing to everybody? So really, as well as thinking about the actual physical underwear, you're also thinking about, well, what's their secret perhaps? What is it they're hiding? What do they keep from people? It may not be a deep, dark secret. It may be just something they want to avoid doing because they know they don't do it particularly well. And that is often something that's really great to bring out for your character, because that will throw them into a challenge which indicates just how far they've come on. Can they deal with it or can they not? That's part of their character development. So yes, think about their underwear. Yes, think about what underwear they might be wearing. But really think about, well, what is it they're hiding? What secret do they have? What could you bring out that would show the reader something more about their personality? And that's what all these issues are there to reveal. And it's the ability to show the reader through their mannerisms, through the way they react to people, through the thing that they're hiding and how they deal with that, to show the reader what your personality and what the character is like, so that you're not having to spell it out for them. You're not having to tell them exactly what the character is like. And that way, they can share the experiences of your character. And what you're building is a character that your reader can either relate to or aspire to, because that most often is what your reader is searching for. They want somebody they can relate to or aspire to, and sometimes both. So that's what you're aiming at, and that's what all these little strange and somehow unconnected factors will allow you to do. They'll allow you to show the reader how they can relate or aspire to being your character. So have fun with your characters. You can do this with as many characters as you want to. You won't then want to write all that into your book, because that will become overwhelming. But it will enable you to get to know your hero, your heroine, your best friend, as they will become as you start to write about them, exactly how to develop and what they're going to accomplish throughout the story. And you will know them extremely well. You will know them extremely well, and that will be great fun. You will know exactly how they will react in any given situation, and they will then carry the plot for you without you having to do it yourself. So have fun with all your characters, enjoy, and happy writing.